Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
So when I was working on Selena, the series for Netflix, to play the role of Abraham Quintanilla, I put on a specific amount of weight, which I was fine doing, but also realizing it could be difficult to get that weight off. I got back into my physical regimen with James Leja, but I was still having trouble with just those last amounts. And that's when I got to meet Arturo from Laredo Medical Weight Loss Clinic. And just the products that he gave me kind of put me over the edge. I feel great about myself.
Back at you and Gloves Off, and today's guest is a great friend of mine. He's a entrepreneur from Laredo, former city councilman Roque Vela. How are we doing, my brother? You doing good?
Doing great. I'm doing great. It's a beautiful weather outside. Glad to be here with you again. Appreciate you having me. Obviously, we have this very important bond election, a bond referendum here upon us. Early voting starts on Monday, I believe. Again, I appreciate you having me on here and being able to talk a little bit about it, about, the pros and the cons and, my stance and what I think about the whole situation.
You know what, one thing I want to say is you were very active within the bond commission, or that bond committee that it had. And a lot of people think that if you oppose this, you're opposing the police and the firemen. That's not what this what it's about. There's a lot of people right now in Laredo and in the United States are in dire straits. I mean, we're in a very bad situation, and people are losing their houses left and right. We got issues with federally that they want to remove taxes. The state right now is trying to see how they can remove property taxes, and here they want to raise our taxes for this. It's a bad situation, but we'll talk about that later on and that opinions that I have. But tell me one thing: you were part of that bond committee, correct?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah. So I was the chairman of the Public Infrastructure Committee. We had a lot of members on that committee that were very influential within our community, very knowledgeable within our community. I was very proud to be the chairman of that committee, which also gave me a seat at the table, if you will, for the main committee. We worked on this for I guess it was about 3-4 months. And, my committee came out with the recommendation of 0. And not because we didn't think that there was any needs. There's obviously needs in our infrastructure. Our roads always need attention. But we just, we weren't happy with the direction of the city government right now, the direction of the administration, and the fiscally irresponsibility that is going on right now within our city government. And we gave them a recommendation of 0. We did have some other recommendations that, of course, they shrug off. And, ultimately, the city council ended up deciding to add, I think it's $65 million for infrastructure for street improvements. That, again, that flew in the face of the recommendation of the committee that was put together specifically for that. And let me just say, I mean, as a council member, you're going to be hard pressed to be able to find another council member that invested more in public safety than I did. I mean, we hired more firefighters when I was there. We bought an ambulance. District 5 did not have an ambulance that was within the district, which was crazy. There was no district inside of, no ambulance inside of District 5. If you got an ambulance and you lived inside of District 5, it either came from District 4 or it came from District 6. There wasn't an ambulance there. So we bought an ambulance. We put it in the fire station right there by TAMU on the loop, hired the firefighters to be able to service that ambulance as well. This isn't, I'm against this bond. I don't like the timing, but more than anything else, I just don't have the confidence in, number one, our city management. I think our city management lacks leadership. And there is also this arrogance within the city council itself. And I also don't believe in the some of the department heads as well, specifically in our utilities department. And I know utilities has nothing to do with this bond, but it speaks to the lack of direction and the lack of leadership that our city management has right now. And for them to be able to put this right now, to your point, with this uncertainty within our economy, when we've been paying high interest rates for the past 2 years, obviously our appraisals have been going up for the past 4 years. It's just very, very poor timing. And it's not that we don't recognize that there's a need. I was at the city council meeting on Monday where they were discussing possibly postponing this. And one of the council members says, well, if you don't think we need a new police department, then vote against it. If you don't think we need to invest in public health, then don't vote for it. And I thought to myself, he's totally missing the point. Completely tone deaf. It's not that the people of Laredo don't think that there's a need. We just don't have the confidence in city government. And until that changes, we're not going to change our opinion. There's absolutely a need. 100%.
You said that point right there, confidence, that word. The city has lost the people have lost the faith in the city management in the last 8 years. And it is not something that just popped up. It's something that's been festering for a long time.
Agreed.
And nobody trusts any of the departments. There's issues with, like you said, with each department. And right now it's a time to start culling off the bad apples and removing them and start getting people that actually want to work for the city of Laredo. Mm-hmm. And that might sound odd because they already work for a city of Laredo, right? But what I'm saying is they want to make it in a positive direction, move forward. We have a lot of people there right now in department head positions or in key positions that are not serious people that are affecting a lot of people of Laredo. And some of these individuals have been around for 25, 30 years, and they're still there. And they outlived mayors and they've outlived city council members left and right. And they just kind of just slithered into this type of atmosphere. And it's just one thing after the other. Every time you see something, well, let's just take building department, for example. Last year, we ran into a situation. We had one building inspector come up and, like we say here in Laredo, me la cantó, He told me to shut up. He cursed me out. He told me that I did not know qué chingado estaba haciendo. That means what the fuck I was doing. Excuse my language. He in front of a electrical contractor, and then we get an air conditioned contractor show up right after that, and he said, "Oh, that guy's been problems for years." We had a contractor because they were going to build some stuff for us. Says that guy's been a problem all over the place. I send a letter to both Assistant City Manager Landin and Neb. The guy's still running around. They still tell me that guy's still messing. So they're
we have our own issues with deep state, right? Here in Laredo.
Yeah. I don't know. It's comical now. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that lack of customer service is gone.
Well, it's that arrogance that I referred to. There's just this arrogance all up and down the city of Laredo right now, and for them to think that they're not in the wrong, or they're not doing anything wrong, and they're doing their job, is quite on the contrary. They're just not doing their job, and they're not worried about the attention to detail. They're not worried about providing that service. I had to speak to an experience that I had with a certain ACM. I didn't have water in my building for about, I guess it was about 4 hours. And I made a call to one of the ACMs. There was a water leak right across the loop. It was about 7 o'clock in the evening, right in the middle of the holidays. So I had a busy night, thankfully. And I couldn't flush my toilets on top of, serving soft drinks and all the other stuff. I couldn't flush my toilet. So I called the ACM, didn't answer. I called one of the other ACMs. He answered, was very apologetic, and kept me in the loop. I called the city council member. Same thing, very apologetic, kept me in the loop. So then about an hour goes by, and the other ACM that didn't answer calls me back an hour later. And I said, hey, he's like, I'm assuming you're calling me about the water problem. I said, yeah, I am. Like, this is a serious problem. Like it's always somebody else's fault with you guys. And it's always a contractor's fault. It's always this. It's never you guys' fault. It's always somebody else's fault. And he goes, well, council member, he still calls me council member. He says, well, council member, it is what it is. This is what this man told me. It is what it is. You're telling a business owner that's in crisis, you're on the wrong. And instead of just being, just lie to me, be apologetic. We're working on it. It is what it is what he tells me. And I didn't even know what to say. My jaw just dropped.
And I mean, we had an incident with the inspectors right after that. 2 days later, inspectors went, they were checking outside, and my wife walked out, and so one of them turns around and starts filming my wife walking off. So she started filming them. She took pictures of the trucks over there. Little thing on the top that said City of Laredo, and of course there was a city inspector's truck. So my wife walks down the street, and one of the guys gets in the unmarked city truck, but yet has a parking permit for the city, hanging on the window. Right. Follows her and starts filming her. So she calls me, and I'm getting into town, and I said I'll be there right now, and go just walk around the block and go into the office, and let's see what happens. When I call these individuals, and they were like, "Oh, they don't work for the city." Of course they work for the city. Who's this individual? What the hell is he doing filming my wife?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Anybody would have gotten ticked off. You would have gotten ticked off. The chief of police would have gotten ticked off. Everybody would have ticked off with that type of scenario that's going on. We have a lack of care towards the citizens of Laredo. And we have a lot of people in positions that are not serious people. They're just there because of their own ego, like you said. And unfortunately, it's cost Laredoans a lot. The faith in Laredo towards its city is very, very bad. They keep telling me, why do they need money for taxes for the streets if we already pay taxes for the streets? How come they didn't put the water issue there? You know what I'm saying? If we needed to raise money for the water, why don't we do that? And it's always the same. You know what I'm saying? It's not.
Well, let me just so that we don't get, like, this isn't about some of the few or more than a handful of bad apples in the city, in the city government. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna reference a video that I saw from another former colleague of mine, that was doing talking about against the bond. And I'm not going to mention any names, because if you mention names, and it's like if you're attacking that person. I'm absolutely not attacking this person. I heard him say this, and I thought people really need to know how we got to this point. Why are we in this point where we have a city government that's asking for tax raises? First and foremost, we have gone far too long with city management and the majority of your city council members that just don't know what they're doing. And I've said this for a while now, is we have a group of council members that do not understand, do not recognize the way a functional city works, because we've just had dysfunction for the past 10 years. They don't know city government. And a lot of times, most council members don't ever get it, but they have good intentions. And there's some council members in there that do understand how the city works, and they kind of follow that lead. When I was in city council, our tax rate was 63.7 cents. And in this other video, they referenced the rec center that District 6 wants. The Killam Tours was referenced as well. We're not at this point because of a rec center that somebody wanted. We're not at this point because of the Killam Tours that's already been approved. We're not going to feel the negative effects of that tours for at least another 10 years. What happened is we were at 63.7 cents, which is how much you need to be able to run a city. I hear a lot that people say we're one of the highest tax cities in the state. That's not true. It's just not. We're in the bottom quarter actually of our tax rate is. Right now, our tax rate is 53 cents. And I'm not saying this to advocate for the bond at all. I'm just trying to get people to understand why we're here. We're at 53 cents right now. The reason we went from 63 cents to 50 cents for 53 cents is because for the past 10 years, we have had city managers that were in over their head, or we just didn't have a city manager. We had the prior administration, and by administration, I mean the prior mayor, didn't understand what he was doing and never wanted to accept that he didn't understand what he was doing and look for guidance. And they just stopped investing in our community, which is why our utilities infrastructure is where it's at. It's not because it's old and it's aged. Yes, there are some parts that it's old and aged, and you always have to invest in your utilities. You always have to invest in your roads. They stopped doing that. They stopped investing in our community. And because they stopped investing in our community, our tax rate went lowered by 10 cents because they stopped selling bonds. So then now, 10 years later, you get to where we have all these needs, right? And we don't have enough money to be able to invest in those needs because it went from 63 cents to 50 cents. Those 10 cents produce tens of millions of dollars that you can leverage against. And now you have a city council that is like, we need more money. And this is the fact of the matter. I had somebody call me yesterday and said, well, if this doesn't pass, what are we going to do? I said, well, the reality is at some point, we're going to have to support a bond referendum. That's just a reality because 53 cents is not enough. It's not enough to provide the services that the city needs. But right now is not the time. It's not the time because we don't have the leadership within our management, and we don't have the confidence in our city council. And until our city council accepts that we don't have that confidence, and we do not entrust them with more money to invest it where it should be invested because it has not been invested where it should be invested, that's not going to change. We need that to get rid of that arrogance. We need to have people in there that are willing to know, you know what? I don't exactly know when I first got into city council, I didn't know what I was doing. I was in business. I understand. I'm very good with numbers, but I had never been in government before. But I understood that and I accepted it. And for the first 6 months, I kept my mouth shut. And I learned, luckily, I had a city manager there that had dedicated his life to government. And I kept my mouth shut for 6 months. And I was in City Hall every single day, attended as many meetings as I could, asked questions. And then once I understood everything and that bulb went off, if you will, I hit the ground running. And because of that, we were able to accomplish a lot of projects in a short period of time. And for the change that took place in District 5 in 4 years it's very difficult to deny. So until we get there, until we get a city council that understands this, until we get a city council that understands our management is lacking, and that they understand that they need to get that trust back from the people. The people aren't going to support it, regardless of how much we may or may not need it. It's just not going to pass.
I look at it this way. You said two major points in there. The council needs to realize that the city, the citizens of Laredo, the populace of Laredo, they don't want to support this because they lack the confidence in the city, the municipality. And second, they need to realize that people inside their administration, their directors, their positions of people inside the different departments have been stagnant and been that way for many, many years. And people complain about that and nothing's been done. And they keep them and they just roll them over. And now we're in this problem that we have. And
musical chairs, it's musical chairs, and it's not working. Again, that there was a change. I guess it was what are we, 2025, 9 years ago, or no, I guess it was like 12 years ago, and they wanted change for the sake of change, and I understood that, right? Whenever elections have consequences, right? But it was just too much. It was too much, too fast, with no real plan, with no direction. And this is why I kept pushing back against it, because I could see there was no plan, there was no direction, there was no understanding of city government. And I pushed back and I pushed back and I pushed back because I wanted to try and have some stability, have some plan, have some plan of transition. And there was never any plan of transition. And now you're left with this skeleton crew of a city staff, and frankly, a management team that's full of JV players, and JV players that would never have seen varsity. They would have never seen Friday Night Lights, right? But because you got rid of you essentially kicked off all your star varsity players off of the football team. All you were left with these JV players, and now you got to play varsity football with JV players, and well, we know how that's going to end up, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, no, you're correct. Listen, on Monday they came out. They said that we couldn't stop the election, and then that same night, the elections officer says, "Yes, we can. The one that can stop it is the city." So I don't know why the mistruths, or that they lie, or what happened. If I'm wrong, I hope somebody from the city can call me up and tell me this is what happened or whatnot. But there's like two different. The election officer says one thing, and then the city says another thing. It's not going together. You understand? It's not.
The reality is, I think what happened is legal knew what the wishes of the council were, and it was pretty obvious what the wishes of the council were. They wanted to go forward. By the way, I think it's the right thing to do. Just go forward. And like I said it before, we're already too far into this. At this point, the city council needs to take its medicine. They need to know just how bad things are going to be, and the numbers are going to be pretty bad. I think some of them are going to be not as bad because there's some push behind it, but 60-40 is going to be the best that they can hope for. It's going to be an ass kicking. So, I think legal was just supporting what they knew council was going to do anyway, and that was the stance.
And listen, if let's say it goes through, you're going to see prices in all locations go up. You're going to see small businesses dwindle. We're not a small business friendly city, so I don't know what they're looking for. They're going to shoot themselves in the foot with import export, especially with all the warehouses that are at a high price. They're going to move out. I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, I don't know how far they're looking and out there. You know what I'm saying? It's I don't understand what. I get it, but I don't understand that right now is the time. They can't see that. Right now is not the time. We do need that. I'm all for better police, but the police chief is a good guy, and he's already done some changes. What we need to do is let's get rid of that apple. Let's put trust back into the citizens with you all. You know what I'm saying? Once you get that trust, we can move forward. Especially one of the questions that people always ask is, what happened with that police station? Now they expanded. It's been there since '99. They just keep expanding it. And they said, what's going on with that? Some people say from the previous say that they pay $30,000 per month to the airport. And I said, well, the airport's part owned by the city. So what's going on there? And they said, well, we're going to move it somewhere else. Well, we're still going to be paying $30,000 for that building. So why not expand where we're at right there? They talk about the training center that's down in Mines Road with the firemen. And I remember back then when I just moved back, that training facility was supposed to be for law enforcement and fire. Mm. They're not being used for law enforcement. Understand? So there's a lot of confusion with what they're trying to explain, and a lot of people right now are just confused and they're in doubt. And, I was a referee in the ring. And when in doubt, you stop the bout. And right now, you know what I'm saying? The doubt is there.
I think, yeah, again, I think, look, it's poorly planned. It's obviously being poorly executed. It's not being explained well. And go back to the committee I was in, the Public Infrastructure Committee. Two different times. I was on the Charter Revision Committee a year and a half ago. And then I was obviously on this committee too. I've been in two different committees, had two different groups of people. What I wanted to do in the Charter Revision Committee was introduce a charter revision, making it part of our charter to dedicate 5% of all property taxes collected. So we collect about $100 million, so basically $5 million. Take that $5 million, and that number would grow as our budget would grow. Obviously, as the 100 million turns into 120, it's 5% or whatever the total number is, and dedicate that towards street paving. One of the reasons why the committee and I do not like the idea of selling bonds for street paving is when you pave a street, it lasts how long, Professor? Before you have to redo it again? 5 years? Let's say 10. Which 10 is in the very high end, but let's just say 10 years. It makes no sense to sell a bond that you have to pay for 20 years to finance something that's going to last 10 years. It's bad business. You just don't do it. That's like being a business owner and I go ask for a loan to replace my AC unit, a unit that's not going to last the duration of the loan. You just don't do it. And I tried to explain this to some of the ACMs and they just don't get it. And the same thing with the council. And when you keep having these bad practices, you're never going to catch up. Right? And again, until they understand this and until they understand what they're asking for and they put forward a bond that the people can say, okay, number one, I have confidence in my city government that they are investing where they need to invest, for one. And number two, this bond is something that makes sense. Right now, public safety is important. Should we put the priority in a headquarters? Maybe not. Are there other avenues that we can do that? And that's where we're at. Is we just is this being rushed? Is the timing right? And are the players in our city government right?
Everything that you said is on point. And let's go back with the streets from there, because there's a lot of things that you said that I'd like to touch base on. Most of the streets here last about 2 years, maybe 3 years, and that's it. Yeah. Wherever you go, there's potholes. Mm-hmm. You go down Shiloh, there's potholes left and right. You go down International, there's potholes left and right. This is all over the place. You go down the loop and there's potholes left and right. Okay? And that's being fixed all the time. So we're using the same contractors that are giving us a shabby job, or maybe we have to look for better. But I think here is who's going to be getting those contracts. And if it's going to be the same people getting the same contracts that have been doing the same shabby job, well, then we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. It's just going to be, you know what I'm saying? I'd rather pay for something that's going to be better and last longer than pay for something because he's a friend. There was a guy that I was talking to in the HEB. He was from Nigeria. And we were talking back and forth, and he goes, oh, this about the bond came up. And he was talking, he goes, man, I don't know what you all have here. I thought all Americans were a lot smarter, capitalism. And I said, yeah, what are you talking about? He goes, well, here, if you have an idea and you have the money to make that idea, you hire the best people and you make a contract and you make it grow. Goes, yeah. And in my country, Nigeria, you hire your brother-in-law or your brother. Well, he doesn't know how to do that. Well, he's my brother, so I'm going to hire him. And it goes up. And that right there, what he said is exactly what the city of Laredo has been doing for many, many years. Yeah. They hire, let's hire him because he's our friend. Well, the guy can't light a match, and you want him to what? Light a firecracker? You know what I'm saying? And I'm being facetious. And that's one thing. The second thing that you talk about is this confidence keeps coming out. And unfortunately, we don't have the confidence in the city. I don't have the confidence as a small business owner in the city of Laredo. Every time, and people are, it's going to get worse. And I don't know what they're doing. They have to pop that bubble that they think that everything's kosher. You know what I'm saying? And understand that the people in Laredo are not in the same frequency as they are.
Yeah, and look, we also have to take some ownership about the results of these elections, right? And people say this all the time: you get the government that the people deserve. The reality is, we're voting for people that's a good guy, right? Or because he is my primo, or because I knew him. And it's like I've said this to a couple of people. It's like we got to stop that. Like, it's not about whether or not he's a good guy or not. Or a good person. Let's say person, right? Because there's obviously both male and female representing us. Are they good city council members? And some of them, the majority of them, are just not. And they've proven that they're not. And yet we continue to put them in office, and also discouraging other people, just because of how distraught some people are in our city government, and how turned off they are with the whole process. Good people that won't even consider running, and when good people do run, they can't win elections, and for all the wrong reasons. For all the wrong reasons, they can't win, and then other people are winning for also all the wrong reasons. Until we get away from that, and we start putting people in there, like, forget about how you feel about this certain individual. Can they do the job? Are they going to be the best person for let's start with this. Do they know what they're doing? Do they understand city government? Let's start with that, right? And number one, are they a good person? Can we trust this person to do the right thing? Does this person have integrity? When I was in a debate once, and I was asked, what your definition of integrity was, and this is 10 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever it was, and I couldn't answer the question at the time. For some reason, I just couldn't answer the question. And I thought, and now this is my definition of integrity, and it's just the definition of integrity, really. Can you do the right thing when nobody is looking? And that's what we entrust our elected officials to do the right thing when nobody's, because the reality is 99% of the time we're not looking. When I was in council, I did the right thing every single time. Sometimes some people may have disagreed with what I did, but I did the right thing, and I understood. I took it personal that people of Laredo elected me, and they trusted me to do the right thing by them, and I took that to heart. That's not happening. That's just that idea is not in the equation anymore, and we got to get back to that.
Yeah, somebody asked me from afar, and they said, "Hey, you're what's going on with the bond? You've been," and I said, "Well, I'm against it, not for some of the things in there. I'm against just the timing and the way everybody is right now, and it's the time's not right, and we like you, the lack of confidence, and as well as the administration, not the city council, because the city council, I'm gonna see if you can get this, because I saw it. I've been seeing it for many years. You have a problem with an employee. Let's say, I'm just going to pick a department. Let's say an inspector comes in and they were rude, and you make a complaint, and you make a complaint with the director of that department. All of a sudden, nothing happens. So you make another complaint. Okay, so now you call a city council. You call them, hey, you know what? This is what happens. Well, why don't you come up and talk about it at one of our city meetings? And they show up, and they start complaining, and they say, oh, we already took care of the problem. You see, the problem's fixed, everything's fine. Okay, and you leave. 6 months later, that problem is still there. Another person comes in, and all of a sudden now you have disgruntled people, but the problem is there. It's never been fixed. And that is what's been happening to the city since I got here, since I moved back in 2000. And it's always the same players. And they play musical chairs, and they're always in the same departments, and they're always causing havoc to the citizens of Laredo. And we have to start firing people. I'm sorry, but in business, sometimes you have to fire individuals. And in the same time frame, somebody asks, "Oh, is there a problem with DEI hire here in Laredo?" And I go, "No, I don't think Laredo has DEI hire. We have hold my political sign hire. If you didn't hold that sign, you didn't get hired." And that is a problem that we've had all along. We've got people in there into different positions that some of them cannot add. And there we have them in financial statuses or what have you. Understand what I'm saying? We do not have them in I don't know. And that culture, people are already tired about, because that culture has been festering in Laredo for a very, very long time. And until we get cleaned that out, Laredo's not going to grow.
Yeah, I agree with you. We have elected officials that have a problem with having difficult conversations. I personally have never had a problem having a difficult conversation. And by that I mean, when as you said, in the private sector, sometimes you have to let people go. And I never have a problem when I have to let somebody go, because before I let that person go, I sit them down, and I have that difficult conversation with them and say, "Look, this is my problem with you. This is what you've been doing. This is what I need you to do. This is how I need you to correct it." And then maybe I'll have that conversation with them again. And after the third time, it's like, "Look, this isn't working out. I wish you the best. I hope you learn from this, but I just can't continue to have this going on." And we don't have those difficult conversations anymore. And that's part of the problem that we have, and that's one of the reasons why these things keep lingering. And one of the things is, unfortunately, when you have those difficult conversations, those tend to catch up to you, and people hold it against you. And again, elections have consequences, right? That's one of the reasons why I couldn't win my reelection. I told people no. I told them no because it wasn't the right thing to do. It wasn't the right thing to do on the people, and some people didn't get their way. And despite whether or not it was the right thing to do, it wasn't the right thing for them personally. Never mind the big picture. For them, it wasn't the right thing to do. And because of that, I ended up having to do it. That's not the only reason why I lost my reelection. There's other things that I could have done better, right? Like I could have handled things better, right? And that's a personal thing, and that's kind of neither here nor there. But at the end of the day, it was having that integrity, right? Doing the right thing when people weren't looking, and that ended up catching up to us. And I think that may have scared some council members, some future council members, that said, I'd rather just kind of go with the flow instead of standing their ground and doing what needs to be done. And now we're starting to pay the consequences of that.
No, we need to get people up there, and we have good people right now in council. They're good people.
Yeah, they're not all bad. Yeah, absolutely.
And but they get how can I say, they get shoe shine. They're in the shoe shine booth by everybody else underneath them. All the directors come in. "Oh, you guys are doing such a great job." This and what happens? They get bamboozled into certain decisions, and they continue, and all of a sudden, you're back into that problem. I mean, Laredo, it's worse off now than when Pepe Martin was around. And nothing against the family of Pepe Martin, but during that Partido Viejo, it's worse off now, because now you have that type of forcing mentality. Either you do it or don't, and has to stop.
I'll say this to your point, and I've said this several times. When you first get in office, things are very black and white, right? Because you're coming in from the outside, you don't have all that noise, you don't have people in your ear. You just see the right and the wrong. And then once you're there for a while, the black and white starts to have kind of shades of gray. And that's one of the things that I wish I would have done differently is, you were talking about that people shining their shoes, right? Like after 4 years of you being there, like there's people whispering things in your ear. And towards the end, I became a little bit too much of a company man, if you will. And I wish I would have, kind of kept that at bay a little bit better. But yes, you're absolutely right. Like I get it. I'm not saying this is an easy job. Like you're handling hundreds of millions of dollars. You're dealing with constituents. You're dealing with department heads. You're dealing with management. I get all of that. It's not easy. And after 2 years, after 3 years, things get very the noises, the voices in your head get very loud, right? And it's difficult to be able to separate the good and the bad, the right and the wrong. I understand that, but what I am saying, what I will tell these council members from somebody who's been through the wars before, been through the battles, right? And unfortunately, they just it's almost like they do the opposite that I say, despite me, and that's fine. That's their prerogative. But what I will say to these council members is always lean towards your constituents. If you're not quite sure what's, and that happens often, where you're kind of in the middle. It's like, man, I don't know to lean this way or that way. Always lean towards your constituents.
Yeah.
Listen to the constituents. Their constituents are trying to tell you something. They're not happy. People are not happy, and you have to take that to heart. And they're not. You still have this arrogance, and that needs to be dispelled.
It's like this: if you have people that hate you and they make a bunch of comments, start reading why they hate you.
Yeah.
Maybe you have to change, and I bet you that their voices change. But people, they're not doing that. They're listening to that person disgruntled, that person's a troublemaker, this person, they're in a little bubble. And unfortunately, there's a lot of. I went to that meeting, changing the subject a little bit. I went to the meeting Thursday ago, and I drove down to the south, and I walked in there, and you had probably about 30 people from the city and the unions, both of them, bunch of good guys, and you can drink beer with them. You know what I'm saying? But take them to a bar fight. But you know what I mean? So we're laughing and joking around because most of them. You grew up here in Laredo. You're talking. What? You're going to make faces to them? You can't because they're part of Laredo. You know what I mean? But they come up and they ask me if Neb asked me, the city manager. I don't want to just call him Neb, the city manager. Asked me if I would like to proceed with that program because I was the only one there. Like I thought everybody, when I really looked at it, they were all from the city. Awesome. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? And I said, no, I already saw what I came here to do. And right then and there, I made my decision of what was going on. And my decision was no. And I said, no, let them go. And we can do it some other time. I really, And just because of what I saw and what I saw happening was the reason why I made the decision of voting against it. I said to myself, the city hasn't changed one bit. And in the last, 8 years, the previous administration changed city managers 5 times, and finally we got the new one. They changed city attorney several times. In fact, one of them ran away from Laredo saying it was corruption. And we went to the police chief that was under investigation. He resigned. So we don't have that of a great, how can I say, A in grade of integrity in our city. Understand what I'm saying?
We've definitely gone the wrong direction. And to your point earlier, when I was in council, and sorry for always going back to when I was there, right? But it's just the reality of the situation. We got accused of doing a lot of things that we were accused of. The crazy part is now a lot of the things that we were being accused of are actually happening now. And there's nobody, there's no watchdog groups. There's none of this other stuff going on. It was just like there was these groups just trying to paint this picture so that they can capture some seats. And those seats were captured, and they did exactly what we were being accused of. And now we're in trouble. Look, Laredo's going to be fine. We're very resilient. We're going to figure things out. We always have. We always will. But we're not going in the right direction. And I think the people understand that we're not going in the right direction. They just don't know how to get back on track. And I'm going to say it again. We have to elect people that, number one, know what they're doing, and number two, are there for the right reasons. And at some point, somebody's going to be able to inspire the community. They're going to come along and inspire the community. They're going to make the community believe that they really do care, that they are there for the right reasons, and that will start this change that we need inside of City Hall. But I'm not saying we don't have good people, right? There's some good people there right now. The majority of them, right? But they don't know what they're doing, and they refuse to accept that they don't know what they're doing, and that's a problem.
Now, they're great. The city council, we have great people. There's not, and I know every single one like you personally, and they're great people. They want mean good, but they're being driven in a different. They're hearing some other voices that those voices have been bringing
They're
down
being
Laredo.
handled. They're being handled. That's just lo están manejando, así como se dice, ¿verdad?
That's what. But you know what we need to do, and maybe we need to get a referendum and change the charter, and bring down the term limit to 1. Because if you cannot figure out that there's potholes in your streets, and there's no stop signs, and there's no fire hydrants at work, and you need the fire station 1 term.
That's not a crazy idea. I mean, because again, in my 4 years, a lot was accomplished. Like if you can't accomplish things in 4 years, then you're just not going to accomplish them. That's just the reality. I mean, look, we did the extension of Bartlett, about the ambulance. There was drainage projects all up and down District 5. Replaced water lines. We built Bartlett soccer complex. Like all of those things. There was overpasses built when I was part of the MPO. Now we're finally getting some more overpasses built. We did 3 overpasses in my 4 years, actually 3 years in the MPO. So yeah, I mean, that is not a terrible idea, because if you're not getting it done in 4 years, then
I'm sorry. And not only that, we have to bring the police chief and the fire chief to vote. Just like some of the other cities, make him a commissioner, and that's the end of the story. And then you wipe out this union control narrative that's going on there. That's the story.
I mean, it's kind of like that right now if you think about it, because the city council members are designated people to be able to vote, right? So they're basically voting on our behalf. The problem is, to your point, is they're being handled. Can we trust that vote anymore? So that's, I mean, but one thing at a time, right? Like right now we have this bond in front of us. We can agree, obviously, that the timing is not appropriate. The players right now are not appropriate. And another thing that I want to talk about is there's this notion that the city's trying to say, like some people have suggested that if this bond passes, that the money's going to spend in something other than the projects that they say are going to be spent. I'm not one of those. I don't believe that. The bond, if it were to pass, whatever they said the bond money is going to be for, it's going to go to that. I'm not questioning that. What I'm questioning is, now you're giving them more money. There's still $1 billion behind that, and you're adding on this money to that. So you're just going to continue to encourage that fiscal irresponsibility. That's my concern.
That's what's going to happen. And we're going to still have the same potholes left and right. They're going to say that, it happens. And watch what's going to happen. The same is going to happen over and over. Just like that guy from Nigeria told me, they're going to hire their brother to make a fishing boat and make a plane, and he doesn't know anything about it. And where's the money go?
Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, and I always, whenever I'm on platforms like this, I always tell people, go out and vote. We have to go and vote against this bond referendum. That early voting starts on Monday, and when it's time to elect city officials, we got to go out there and you got to vote and actually take the time to listen to them. Do they know what they're saying? Is there substance to the things they're saying? Do they know what they're talking about? And ask questions. If you see them somewhere, like walk up to them and ask them questions. ask them questions and get a feel for that person, not just, oh, this person, I know this person from this, that, or that, or this person that I know knows that person. Like, we got to stop that. We have to stop that.
No, you're correct. You're correct. You're correct. So number one, we agree with lack of confidence with our city, and vote again.
That is the number one item that's out there, and you know, I also one of a great place for them to start to gain that trust to the city is stop selling bonds for discretionary money. You know, and I talked about that 5% of property tax going to street paving. One of the other things that we proposed for the city charter revision was to get away with the selling of bonds for discretionary money purposes. The committee wanted zero, because remember, all of these things have to go to city council. City council either says yes or no. If they say no, then it doesn't even get on the ballot. Right? And of course, they said no to these things. So they wanted zero, and I said that we have to give them something, because if zero, they're definitely going to say no. They're probably going to say no to this anyway, but they're definitely going to say no to zero. So what we came up with was a budget of $1 million a year for the entire city, for the entire council. Right now, they're selling $1 million each. That's $9 million in bonds. So we said we're going to limit the selling of bonds for discretionary money purposes at $1 million. We're capping it there. And because it's part of the city charter, that can never change. And they can't go against it. It's the city's constitution. Of course, they voted against that. That didn't make the ballot. But that would be a start. Stop abusing it. Stop abusing that power that you have to sell bonds so you can put in your own little kitty and spend as you wish. That needs to stop, and that would be a huge step in the right direction for them to start to gain trust in the city, the people of the city of Laredo.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else you want to bring out forward that we might?
No, just again, thank you, Professor, for always having me on here, for giving me this platform. I know I had told you in the beginning I kind of wanted to stay out of it, but I saw kind of where this was going, and I thought it would be great for me to just kind of put my opinion out there, my stance, why that is, and explain to the people of Laredo, the people watching, why we're at where we're at, and how we can change things. And again, it's about voting. You got to go out and you got to vote on this bond referendum, and you got to go out and you got to vote for people of Laredo that are running for city council, and take it to heart. It's your job. Take it personal. Your vote should be personal, and by that I don't mean it should be a secret. It's personal, like it's something that's important to me.
Absolutely. And people, number one, I agree with what you're saying, and we've seen a lot of things bad, and we've talked about our experiences here. Hopefully we'll open the eye to many that are out there. They're trying to see, why are they against? It's the experiences that we've had, the experiences that I've had with the city, the experiences that you've had working inside the city and understanding it left and right. And many people out there have different experiences. Many small businesses have the same experiences that I have. And experiences is a reason why the lack of confidence is there with our city, because those bad experiences.
Agreed.
We do live in a city that has an ugliness in bad people. No, we have resilient people that are good natured with good morals, and they've been raised the vast majority have been raised in a good, solid family, and that's why we have crime is low, because of that type of family resilience that we have here in Laredo. Now, everything else that goes on, the main thing I would say this is, why would a voter vote to raise his own taxes on this property? That's kind of redundant. I understand that we need it, and hopefully we can all the departments heads that are there and the city council that is there are able to bring that trust back to the city of Laredo. Because I'm going to tell you what's going to end up happening. If this bond passes, let's say it passes, if this bond passes, the distrust is going to get further and further away.
Yeah.
And to the point that they're not going to trust anybody,
Yeah.
and it's going to get worse. So we need to start mending that fabric that's been torn, of trust and of confidence in our city government, and it has to start now. And we have some good people out there that hopefully they can realize that and try to mend it, because right now what they're doing is they're not mending anything, and it's unfortunate. The city manager and the assistant city managers that are with them, they're not trying to mend back the fabric of trust. And
No, you're absolutely right. And you know, I'll say to that, I'll say to them, you know, to both the council members and the city staff, city management, is um get rid of the arrogance. It's you're you're not accepting that you're not doing the right thing. You're not accepting that you don't understand what you're doing, and that doesn't mean error, because everybody has their strong points, right? It's like I'm good with numbers, but I'm not so good with people, and or I'm not so good with operations or things like that. What are you strong at? And accept that what you're not strong at, you're not, and you should listen to somebody else. And it's the same thing goes for a city council, like, and I get it, because I'm not going to say I wasn't arrogant there towards the end as well. I was 100%. So I understand it. Get rid of that arrogance. Get rid of that arrogance and accept that you may be in over your head and you don't quite understand the situation that you're in, and ask for help and accept that help. And that's not happening. And until that happens, or until we get new people in there, we're going to be in the same situation that we're in right now. It's not going to stop. Uh, and I hope they hear that. I hope they accept that. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. It's just the reality. There's just air of arrogance in the city, period, and not just city hall, just in the city in general. And that doesn't mean everybody. I don't want to offend everybody that works for the city. That's not everybody. But there is this air of arrogance that needs to go away. You need to stop. You need to. It's like if I were to have my servers here at Playmore, and the first thing that you can think of after a night at Playmore is think the staff is arrogant. That's not good for business, is it? Well, right now, the people in the city of Laredo, for the most part, or a large portion of it anyway, they're arrogant. And well, we can't take our, we can't go and buy water somewhere else. We can't get other like they're the only services that we can get. That doesn't make it okay for you to be arrogant. Like you have to take that pride in what you're doing, and you have to understand that you are in customer service. That's what you do. Whether you're the city manager, whether you're working at utilities, whether you're in building services, whether you're a city council member, whether you pick up, I don't care where you are, you're providing service. Take that to heart and start providing that service. And that's the best thing I can say to them, is just take it. And look, it's not easy, because I've gone through it, and I'm not going to say like I have been arrogant at times in my life, 100%. And there's been times when, I could have done things better within my business too. Absolutely. But I accepted that. I understood that things need to get better. I can't continue doing this, right? Like nobody's perfect, and there's ebbs and flows in people's life. You can't fix something until you accept that it's broken. It's like I say this sometimes, like, look, if I tell you your tire is flat, and the damn thing is flat, but you keep telling me it's not flat. No, it's not flat. Nothing wrong with my tire. Well, are you gonna fix that tire? No, because you won't accept that it's flat, right? And we acceptance is the start of fixing things that are broken. And that's not it, that acceptance hasn't quite reached home.
Yeah, no, you're correct, and it's that arrogance. I mean, we all have it, and unfortunately, we're all human. But what happens here is when you have a pattern of that, the pattern of lack of customer service throughout, and it's not just in one department; it's in a multitude of all of them, and culture that has been brewing there for a long time. And when people raise something against the city, all of a sudden everybody goes after you. They'll blackball your business. They'll blackball you. They'll call you this. And we've all seen it. You and myself, we've lived through it. Okay, we continue moving forward because of the resilience that we have, and we're not going to be pushed around in that format. We're going to continue pushing forward. And it has to, they might intimidate somebody else, intimidate somebody that, hey, I didn't do anything wrong. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
I know exactly what you're saying.
And that's what happens, that intimidation to people. I mean, we can talk about this all day, and it's not going to give us anything, because people are going to look at it like if we're attacking them. We're not attacking, we're talking about our experiences that we've all had. And the point was brought to me right now about the elections. They say they're going to have the elections at the fire station in Del Mar, but they're asking for a bond. How, isn't that a conflict of interest? Why don't we move it somewhere else?
That's a good point. I mean, but there's not any electioneering allowed after a certain distance, right, to the polls. So yeah, I mean, you have a good point. But the election code and the election administrator are very strict about this. You can't have anything that's going to sway your decision one way or another once you're at the ballot box. And how much electioneering or politics is going to happen during this bond referendum? I don't think there's going to be much, but that's one of the reasons why there's a low turnout, because you don't have your normal people standing outside the poll holding signs, and so people don't even know there's an election going on, which is why they wanted to have it in May. Because when's the last time we voted in May, right? It's been years. So that's kind of part of the reason why they're having it this time of year. So you're not going to see that electioneering, you're not going to see that politicking, and that's why there's going to be a low turnout. So again, to what I said earlier, right? Make sure you make time to go out and vote, whichever way you believe is what the community needs right now, or what you believe. Go out and vote. Don't forget that there is going to be an election going on.
Like I said one more time, we all love Laredo. This is our town. We're from here. We want to see it grow and prosper. But right now, at this time, there's a lot of people hurting. That's my point of view. And the city needs to change. And that confidence needs to change, number one. We keep egging that on because that's exactly what the problem is. Mm-hmm. And I want to thank you for the service that you had when you were city councilman. And I want to thank you for also standing up and for continuing to be involved in the community. Because I see a lot of people that they retire from being a council member, see them ever again. And thank you for standing up for that, because we need people, leaders like that around the city.
I appreciate that, and thank you. That comes from just, number one, me genuinely loving this city and loving city government. For whatever reason, it just made sense to me when I was in there, and I genuinely, passionately enjoy city government and love my community, and I have trouble standing around and doing nothing when something is going awry. I've kind of always been that way, so hopefully I'll stay that way. I think I got it from my dad.
Good man. Say hi to him. Good man.
I appreciate it.
All right, folks. We run out of time. We'll leave you with this. You all stay safe, be safe, and God bless you all. And remember, within the next 2 weeks, there's going to be an early voting for this election. I'm against, and I know our former council member is against. So you all,
yes,
next time, much
thank
peace.
You all. Have a great day.